When Captain James Cook arrived in Hawaii in 1778, he and his crew were the first Westerners to observe the rich Polynesian culture that had evolved over the course of centuries. Especially adapted as the plants and animals that thrived so far from other lands, the Hawaiian people had learned to use their resources with ingenuity, skill, and art, developing a lifestyle of abundance, deep spirituality, and ample leisure. This arrival marked the advent of a new era for Hawaii, a time of monumental change that included opportunities, admiration, and sharing, as well as destruction, disease, and death. Cook's own visit was a mixture of pleasure and pain as cultural signals were exchanged but often missed their mark. After Cook came other ships from Britain, France, Russia, America, and these voyages coincided with a period of political consolidation and wars in Hawaii during which Kamehameha took control of the main islands. By 1795, most of the island chain was firmly under his rule, with those remaining being won through diplomatic efforts in later years. Kamehameha exploited the novelty of Western technology to vanquish his enemies. Wooden spears and clubs were no match for cannon and muskets, but he also understood the seductive qualities of Western culture and the danger they posed to his people. While he reigned, Kamehameha took care to strictly control foreigners' interactions with natives. In 1820, American Protestant missionaries arrived on the scene. Over the ensuing decades, this determined group of pioneers had a huge impact on the islands. Beginning with the introduction of Christianity and its attendant moral teachings, they also recorded the Hawaiian language and assisted its transformation from an oral tradition to a written language. As the years wore on, many missionaries and their descendants became active in business, and they and their companies eventually controlled almost all of the local economy. Economic power translated easily into political power, and members of missionary families remain prominent in island society, business, and politics today. Sugar soon became the dominant industry on all the major islands. The demand for labor soon outstripped the local supply, and workers were recruited first from China and Japan. They were followed by Portuguese, Koreans, and Filipinos in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Although many workers returned to their home countries at the end of their contracts, those who stayed gave Hawaii a truly multi-ethnic society.
Kaulanana pua o Hawaii Tupama hope o ka aina Hiki mai ka elele o ka loko ino Pala pala anunu me ka paka Kaulanana pua o Hawaii
Since the overthrow in 1893, Hawaiians have suffered the continual loss of their lands, degradation of their culture, and burden of always trying to catch up to a Western society that continually leaves them behind. Native Hawaiians, who constitute only 20% of the state's population, are the minority in their own ancestral lands. They also have the lowest rates of educational success. Also, crystal methamphetamine Prostitution and homelessness are very prominent problems within this community, with the state having the fifth highest rate of meth abuse in the nation. Hawaiians today fight to reclaim their lands from the United States, both Native Hawaiians and non-Native Hawaiians alike. The sovereignty movement has varying voices that scream for this. At one end, you have those who push for complete independence from the United States. Kapakaukau is a collection of smaller groups that support this. Two of its main proponents, Dr. Kekuni Blaisdell and Dr. Jonathan Osorio, who are both recognized as voices of authority on this issue, base their stances on the illegality of the events that overthrew the Hawaiian monarchy. They call attention to the countless injustices that have befallen Native Hawaiians since that time, especially since Hawaii then was a country of prosperity and progress. The motto of the Hawaiian kingdom, Ua mau ke'ea o ka aina i ka pono, translates as, "The life of the land is perpetuated in righteousness." In Hawaiian culture, the land is distinctly tied to the survival of its culture, and thus its people as true Hawaiian. Others seek partial recognition of Hawaiian sovereignty, that is, a state within a state, or also a nation within a nation. Groups such as Kalahui push for some measure of sovereignty for Native Hawaiians to assert and perpetuate Native Hawaiian culture. However, they would still be subject to the greater United States. A bill that would see this happen is currently before the U.S. government for consideration, where it has passed the House and has yet to be introduced to the Senate. Titled the Native Hawaiian Government Reorganization Act, and more commonly known as the Akaka Bill, it would give political power to Native Hawaiians in a similar fashion to the tribal entities of Native Americans and Alaska Natives. One point of controversy within this legislation is that it would be exclusive to Native Hawaiians. Some call this racist, arguing that the 19th century Hawaii was multi-ethnic, and still is, and should continue to be so. Still others say that this does not go far enough, and that this form of sovereignty would only serve as a dead end to Hawaiian self-determination, culture, and identity. Though there may be differing opinions regarding this issue, we stand with countless others together with those advocating for Hawaiian sovereignty. As Brother Is, best known for his mele, Somewhere Over the Rainbow, What a Wonderful World, once said, "Malama da kuleana, bra. Take care of your responsibilities." This is the responsibility of every Hawaiian, American, and citizen of the world in the fight for social justice and equality, to return to those that which has been taken so unceremoniously from them. To the Hawaiians, let us return Hawaii.
Kaulanana pua o Hawaii. On January 17th, 1893, a city was buried in tears after the illegal overthrow of its queen, losing their kingdom, their home, and more importantly, their feeling. And Ellen Ko'ohiva o Kalani Wright Prendergast writes a song to liberate a community. August 12th, 1898, the word annexation rings through a newly slaughtered country. In a day, songs wring out tears like cries from newborn babies, and I wonder, is anyone still listening? Listen. August 21st, 1959, Hawaii officially becomes the 50th state of this God-forsaken country, and no one is singing. It's January 17th, 2008. 115 years to this day since we were the ones to have our nation violently ripped away. I've watched the blood-stained footprints fade. We watched as Hawaiians forgot to fight. One by one, ice pipes began to ignite. Waikiki's face transformed from brown to white. The blood took its time to fade, and we have changed. And as much as I try to fight, I know today things will never be the same. The language will never resonate the same, and I can't seem to find a way to say that it'll be okay in either of the two languages I've been taught to this day, because the force-fed colonials dictionaries did all they could to choke me, covered my grandmother's tongue with tattooed Christian scriptures. They silenced me, slapped me when I tried to speak like my family, and told me I had no history before the European missionaries, whose mission was to spread God like their diseases, infest through royally incested families, diluting sacred blood with TB. All for a God they said would end our suffering. And so we converted. But we kept dying, and we've been praying, but we haven't been surviving. But mana cannot be created or destroyed by man, so it must mean that we still stand a chance. But we need to use what's been left after Christ said we couldn't dance, couldn't chant. We need to use what's been left to fight back. It's January 17, 2008, and I cried this morning. Hung flags at half-mast and tried to silence my mourning. A nation remembered its distress as I got dressed, and I tried my best to forget, but I couldn't. And so I may have lost sight in the tears my ancestors cried, but I'll show you my pride. Tattoo my mo'oku au ho to my tongue as to never forget where my voice comes from, who my loyalty is tied to, and what nation my heart sings to. I'll sing for you. I will chant continuously to show you that I am Hawaiian. I will stand, fight, and chant, and never be compliant, because the second I start worshiping the red, white, and blue, pledging allegiance to a nation that turned our eyes red, people white, and hearts blue, is the second I know that the fight is through. And in 1893, we promised to backlead the Okalani until she was free, daring to call ourselves the famous flowers of the land that we weren't even willing to protect. We promised to stand hand in hand fighting, and so here I stand at the palace, Iolani, screaming. I stand holding hands with ancestors, trying to find voices, but what is a voice worth when no one is listening? What is a song worth that can overthrow opinions when no one is singing? You should be ashamed of yourselves because you should be singing, and when you finally feel like joining me, I will be here waiting, but not idly. I will be singing. Ma hope ma ko o lili ulani.